morning, guys. I'm off to Ushguli today, but I'm trying to get breakfast before I head off. Something you find in Georgia is that they love a good sleep in, and nothing starts in Georgia until about 9:30, 10 o'clock. So you'll go to a restaurant and have a breakfast menu and you'll be like, oh sick, I'll get some breakfast. Yeah, that's probably not going to start till 10. So I'm heading off at 10 o'clock and I'm up. I'm not early, it's 9 o'clock, but nothing's open. So get used to that if you're coming to Georgia. I found this cute little coffee house here. You can get your breakfast. It's 9 AM and it's the only place open in town. So they're kicking on to the, I don't know, maybe that tourists like to have breakfast before 10 o'clock. Something that you'll see all around Georgia, which is fantastic, is their support for Ukraine. You will see it everywhere. You'll see a lot of people with t-shirts, like staff and stuff like that, that now has on the map of Georgia, and it shows where South Ossetia and Abkhazia has broken away due to Russian influence. Very much the same as what's happened in Crimea and what's trying to happen in Donetsk and the other eastern regions of Ukraine. So it says underneath that 20% of my country is controlled by Russia, because what's happening here in Georgia is that all the Russians that don't want to fight, and even before the announcement of mobilization, the Russians didn't agree with it, all came fleeing to Georgia, which is interesting because not that long ago there was a study done in Russia that said that the people they disliked the most were the Georgians. And my time here last time as well, Russians were not really welcome here in Georgia because of the fact that they'd invaded as recently as 2008. So it's interesting that all these Russians are now fleeing their own country to a country that they invaded. It'd be like if Russian all of a sudden decided to invade, I don't know, Estonia and Lithuania, and they all fled to bloody Ukraine. They wouldn't be very welcome. So right now the Georgians here are letting the Russians know what their country has done to this country as well. And you see it on the receipts, on the bottom of the receipts as well. If you buy coffee or whatever, it will say 20% of Georgia is occupied by Russia. You'll see a lot of stuff around here, like in Kazbegi I saw trekking companies will not take Russians hiking. A lot of hotels and restaurants do not welcome Russians in unless they sign this they'll sign this bit of paperwork that says that they do not agree with the Russian invasion. If they don't sign it, they don't get served. So you find like bars in Georgia and Tbilisi where only Russians go to, and yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, so they're not very welcome here, as you would expect, because they're an occupying force here as well. But anyway, I've got coffee, they do breakfast, it's 9 o'clock, plenty of time, and just look how cosy and warm this place is. Enjoy the morning sun. So I'm heading up to Ushguli. Ushguli is essentially a couple of little hamlet towns like this, and I think the main one is up here. This is Ushguli is the highest permanently settled township in Europe. And this has been here since the early Middle Ages, and it's quite unique to this Svaneti region back in Mestia and up here in Ushguli and right through these mountains, or these towers that are everywhere, which are used for defensive systems as well as spotting invading forces. These are all UNESCO protected now. It's quite a unique thing to this part of the world, and they're in still very good condition given the remote location we are up here, high up in the Caucasus Mountains. So yeah, we'll head up further up to Ushguli, Ushguli town proper, and get a bit closer to them. First thing I noticed from last time I was here, there's a lot more cafes, espresso bars, things of that nature. But that's a cool little town, eh? Yeah, so you see these towers dotted around the place everywhere. This was the guest house that I stayed in 7 years ago. Not a lot's changed here. This house here, such a cool one. I love it. Look at these old Soviet four-wheel drive vehicles. The big sun veranda. It's lovely. Yeah, so these towers, see if I can get to one further up the hill, were used for defensive means. Sun's in a bad spot there. You can see each one of them has 3 little slits at the top where people with bow and arrows or whatever could defend themselves from invaders. They've got a few little windows on the sides of them. And the highest one on each village, which would be at the top of the hill, might be this one here, they would light a fire on the top of it, and that would signal to the next village further down, and when they saw the fire, then they would light their fire, which would signal to the village further down. So they were able to communicate that way, that there was an invading force coming through. And these towers, you can see this one here's got a lot of defensive systems. A lot of them are attached to a house, so they will in winter time they use these for storage of food, cattle, things like that. And these days it's primarily what they're used for. Yeah, so this village, Ushguli, I was saying earlier, is the highest permanently settled village in all of Europe. We're about 2,000, a bit over 2,200, 2,200, 200, 300, something like that. People stay up here all through the winter. This village has been here since the early Middle Ages. These towers, a lot of these houses, were all built between the 9th and the 12th century. They're all pretty old and all really good condition, especially up here. In Mestia they are falling into disrepair a little bit more, but they're all protected through UNESCO now, and so a lot of them are given a little bit of help to restore them, keep them in good condition and falling apart. Yeah, so you can see this tower here. This is attached to a monastery and a church that's in there. This is the highest one up on the hill, and this would have been a signal tower to the ones down here. I can see there's a little hill just here. There's one on that. And yeah, so this was their defensive system. They're pretty well cut off from the world, even today, for around 6 months of the year. With very deep snow, getting up here is nigh on impossible. And this area in the northern Svaneti region has remained really untouched for a long time, for for a millennia. But it's a beautiful location. This is St. George's Church. This is from the 12th century. He's having a good time. Look at that ancient engravings on the door. Look at this guy, he's a Svaneti warrior. Not sure what this chap's doing. This fella's got a spear, or he's spearing a lion. This is the lion here. Here's somebody reading a book. He looks very kingly. But it's amazing the condition that these are in. And I think it's due to, not in spite of the conditions up here of the harsh cold winters covered in snow, that seems to preserve a lot of these things really well. It's beautiful. So the backdrop to Ushguli, which the little village of Ushguli is just back here, is a monastery and a church sitting on top of the hill. Wherever you are, you'll see this mountain face here, the Greater Caucasus Mountains. This is Mount Shikara. That's 5,200 meters. We're at, well, about 2,000, a bit over 2,200. You can go on a walking track. Well, now there's a lot of vehicles actually. It used to be, from memory, just a walking track up to a glacier that's up there. I'm not going there today, but it looks like you can just get a car and drive there. But it's a beautiful backdrop to Ushguli. It's not the highest mountain, but this part of Georgia has the highest mountains. In Georgia, the highest one I think is 5,400. That's in this region as well, somewhere, I'm not entirely sure where, but Shikara, 5,200. Such an impressive face. It's amazing. You'll see up here in Ushguli is you're just walking around in a medieval village. It really seems that tourists have found Ushguli now. There were always guest houses here, but it was there's a lot more difficult to find one now. It just seems that everybody is cashing in on the tourist industry, and I guess for the people up here, why not? Every second building seems to be a guest house. Cha-cha. Come and grab a little seat, watch them look over the mountains, an ancient early medieval tower, and have a few cha-cha shots. These guys must have their little fire going inside, keeping it warm. It'd be such a harsh area to live in winter time here. Meters under snow. Most of these houses, you can see, will be used for their livestock, for their cows. can see on this one here, looks like it's getting a little bit of renovation works done. You got the tower attached to the house. Most of the houses will be 2 stories because the snow will cover the entire bottom story of it in the winter time. So come winter time, there'll be all the livestock, all the food storage will get stacked up in here. The families will probably move to living on the top floor, and yeah, not so much need for defensive purposes or signaling on them now. You can see really well the little defensive holes there for chucking stuff at your enemy. If you had only enough time on your trip to Georgia and you were picking between Kazbegi or Ushguli or Mestia, I think you'd be better off picking Ushguli coming up here. Kazbegi, yeah, really doesn't have that history that this town has got, this village has got up here. The mountains are bigger, probably not as dramatic, but I think that the general landscape is more beautiful up this part of Georgia as opposed to the northeast, and definitely the little villages are a lot more beautiful here than they are in the Kazbek region. So yeah, Caucasus shepherd dogs. Yeah, so keep that in mind if you're trying to put together an itinerary. I really think that if you're not coming to the Mestia Ushguli region, you're missing out on something really special, a really awesome part of the world. Right, I think that this is here for me to go up it and try to get into that tower. Okay. Another thing to consider, if you're scared of dogs, Georgia's probably not the place for you because they don't have a good control of the stray dogs in the townships, and everywhere you go in any village, even in Mestia, there's a whole pack of territorial dogs that if you're in the wrong spot, they don't act very friendly towards you, and generally they're freaking massive Caucasus shepherds. So if you're not a dog person, maybe skip Georgia. Perfect. Okay. Like Lova, the nice farmer over here, said, yeah, it's all good to go up. So let's get up into an ancient medieval tower. Okay, little staircase. And this will be one of the bigger towers in Ushguli. Some of them are up to 5 stories high. There's 5 different levels in them, which this is probably one of those. Not many of them. The wooden floors, jeez, it's dark. Oh God, I'm gonna need a torch. Not many of the wooden floors have survived in them, especially down in Mestia. Shit. Oh God. Where am I? Where's the next stairs? Okay, need a little torch. Couldn't find that ladder. So this level here's got a little peephole. There's a bit more light going on up here. Oh, a little table and chairs. Bring a bottle of cha-cha up. Oh, here's a lovely little sit place. Oh God, the floor. Shit. Wow, so I'm sitting up on top of potentially a 9th century, early medieval defensive tower, looking over Europe's highest permanently inhabited village, looking at one of Georgia's highest mountains. There is no better view than where I am right now. This is incredible. Last time I was here, not many of these towers. I think we asked around, couldn't go up any. Looks like they've done a little bit of restoration work on this one, but it's just fantastic. I'm so glad I've come back here. You know, there's places you go, this is a pretty wild out there part of the world. And I remember thinking 7 years ago, I'll never be back here again. Make the most of it. I'll keep coming back to these amazing places. Just far out, look at this. What an incredible, I guess, privilege to be able to sit up on a medieval watchtower, defensive tower, with the backdrop of a 9th century medieval village, way up here in the Caucasus Mountains, up with the Svan people. And being able to do that twice in my life. A lot of people ask me, because I spend years traveling around the world, how I can afford to do it and how I get to do experiences like this, well, not once, but twice in my life. And it's all about what you prioritize your life around. A lot of people go, wow, Jake, I can't believe you've got enough money, you can do this, you must be rich, or like, what's your secret? The secret is prioritizing. A lot of people want to go out 3 nights a week and get on the piss and spend $150 a night. They want to smoke cigarettes, a pack of cigarettes a day. That's $30 to $40 a day in Australia. They want to have a brand new car. They'll pay the repayments off for the next 15 years, and the car, that was $60,000 car, is now worth nothing at the end of it. You want to keep up with the latest fashion trends, so you got to keep buying the new clothes and new shoes. I don't buy into any of that, because your car will be worth nothing, your fashion will be outdated. Experiences like this don't date. Experiences like this stay with you forever. Up here is the Queen's Tamaz winter residence, but also doubled as the Supa with an AR on the end, which meant gathering place. This is where they used to come to talk about whether or not, if there was an invading force coming, they'd gather up here on the hill, decide whether or not they were going to go and attack or how the defense would work. They used to have a defensive wall all around it, and there used to be 4 towers. There's only one left standing now. The rest of them were destroyed in the 1930s by Russia. And so, yeah, this is a pretty cool little place. I don't know if you can get up into the top of that one, but it gives a good view down to some of the other valleys down here. So up here on the gathering place, you can see from the tower up above here what a great view they'd have down the valley. This village here, the upper village of Ushguli, is up behind me, and you can see a little village here and another one just down here, and they dot their way down the valley, all connected by the signal towers that would be lit if they needed. This one here is a lot more, I guess, untouched than the one that's only 200 meters behind me, because everybody wants to stay at the highest village. Of course, it's got the better views. So this one here doesn't have your guest houses and things like that. It is still just a very raw early medieval village. Not a lot has changed down here, and even less so on the other village down here. So it's really nice having a little wander around on this one here, because you don't have all the signs for cha-cha here and guest house and all the rest of it. I think I've earned myself. I reckon you guys could probably guess what I've earned myself. Well, you guessed correctly. I've earned myself a beer. So what of you? Sit here, have a frothy, check out a mountain and a medieval and Europe's highest permanently inhabited village. Cheers, guys.